Well, let's head to South Australia now, where a family is in mourning after a 54-year-old man has died waiting 10 hours for an ambulance. This is a tragic story and more proof, as if any were needed, of the crisis in our health system. Joining me now is South Australian opposition leader David Spiers. David, thanks for your time. This South Australian man called 000, suffering abdominal pain and vomiting. He was told an ambulance would be sent, and it was 10 hours later. By the time it got there, he'd passed away. We're meant to be in a first world country. This is just a disgrace.
Oh, James, it certainly is. And Peter Malinauskas, the Premier here, he comes across as a very decent guy, but he's not running a very decent government, that's for sure. A lot of spin. We've got a Premier who's a Premier for the good times and doesn't like fronting up when things get tough. Many of your listeners and viewers would remember that he ran on a platform to fix the ramping crisis here in South Australia. It's nearly 3 times worse now than when the Liberals were in government. We've had a situation in the last couple of weeks where senior medicos have claimed that they're actually moving patients from the ramp to the ED in front of patients who might be sicker. There's claims that patients have died as a consequence of that. And just in the last couple of days, we've had these revelations that this very, very unfortunate, tragic situation has unfolded where a man waited 10 hours for an ambulance, and by the time it arrived, it was too late. This is a government here in South Australia that said it would fix the ramping crisis. Its central commitment would be around health, and that's just not been the case at all.
Yeah, well, as you say, I mean, it's 2 years since they were elected, and clearly they've not fixed this issue at all. In fact, videos from the night the now deceased man called 000 show 17 ambulances queuing outside the Royal Adelaide Hospital alone. Now, there's a formal review that's been launched, but I mean, that's going to be zero comfort for the deceased man's family and friends.
Well, there's review after review with this government. I think we last counted there's about 100 reviews being undertaken by Labor. That's their way of trying to delay the inevitable outcome of their mismanagement and maladministration. We've got a review into whether they are playing around with the ambulance ramp to try and pull patients into the ED in front of patients who need help and care more urgently. We've got a review now into why this man waited 10 hours for an ambulance. He was a priority 5, which initially was quite low priority. He should have been seen within 60 minutes. 60 minutes. He had to wait 10 times that length of time. This is a government that said they would fix this situation, and it's far, far poorer than what it was a couple of years ago. Now, I've called today. I've really gone out further than I normally would and said the health minister should be sacked, Chris Picton, because he has completely lost control of our health system here. I had a situation where a paramedic contacted my electorate office a few days ago and said that they had to contact Uber Eats to deliver food to the ramp to keep them going. They'd been there for so long. That is not a first world-class health system. When we were in government, we had to manage COVID-19 and all the drama around that. Labor made this bold claim. They would fix the ramping crisis. They would get on top of all this stuff. It's 3 times worse. And I can tell you, South Australians are getting pretty cynical about this.
Well, I was going to ask you, if you're a South Australian suffering a medical emergency, what would you advise? Call 000, or are you better off calling an Uber and hoping the driver has some medical expertise?
Well, that's the exact question I've been asked in a press conference today. I'm very reluctant to give medical advice. I'm very far from being a medico. You want people to dial 000 in the first instance, of course. But if that ambulance isn't forthcoming, what are people supposed to do? Die at home, or take their loved ones, or take themselves, if they can, to an emergency department, where, of course, they may wait for many, many hours. This is a real breach of faith with the South Australian community, because they did vote our government out. We were only in government for 4 years. We thought we were making headway. Well, our last recordable month of statistics in terms of the Liberal government's performance, 1,500 hours lost on the ramp. Some would say that's not very good. Well, the last recordable month, it was 3,500. The month before that, it was 4,280. So Labour are doing pretty abhorrently here. People are dying. And we've got a Premier who's here for the good times. For those who know Peter Malinauskas, he loves the events. He loves the stage. He loves the selfie on social media. But he doesn't love fronting up when the going gets tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute tragedy that a man has lost his life. And moving forward, if you're a South Australian, I mean, when you dial 000, you think, OK, it's good, someone's on their way. But now you're going to be second guessing what's happening. And that is only going to create more dangerous situations. David Spiers, I appreciate your time.